anything about gene screening, I'm a panelist and an MC snob. So you have to be rock stars to be on our panel, and you have to be a rock star to be an MC, because we make sure you're gonna learn. So you're never gonna see salespeople up here, not that there's anything wrong with salespeople, but we want people to really learn, get the meat of the topic that we're doing that particular month. So we are so excited to hear. Did everybody get a great welcome from Lisa and Linda at the front door over there, right? They are amazing. And before I forget, Jim Jets is here, and Jim is our photographer. He does both meetings, because we also coordinate both meetings once a month as well. And we have something called the Dream Team with the Gulfport Chamber. I started this a year and a half ago because I was watching people have a hard time with their business, and they couldn't do certain things because they didn't have the money for them. So I was like, how can we help these people? So I talked to some of our experts at the Gulfport Chamber, and I said, we need a dream team. I said, we just had a lady join, and she filled out an application. She wrote her name. She had no business name. She had her phone number. She had no website. She didn't have anything. She didn't have any money. I mean, what kind of chamber are we not helping her? And we're just helping people that have money, right? We need to build everybody up, because we all start with there. And so with the Dream Team now, if you're a member of the chamber, you let me know where you need help. And we have wonderful people that will help you for a discount, a good discount, because they want to make sure you look good out there. And we want you to look good. And when we put you out there, we want you to look like rock stars. So all of our members go out there. We have Jim Jets. Jim, as I mentioned a couple of seconds ago, he does all the pictures. He's part of the Dream Team.
And video.
And video. But we also notice with Jim and his gift is there's a lot of people that need headshots. Sometimes we get headshots. I mean, sometimes I get headshots and I meet the person and it looks nothing like them. So I'm like, we have to figure out a way to do really good kind of headshots for people that they feel confident that they can give back to people and not spend a lot of money. So Jim Jets is doing it for $75. So if you want a headshot today, you can go in the back and he will do your headshot, and they're absolutely beautiful. He does all of our shots.
I fix bags and
Oh, you fix things?
yeah, I fix things.
I didn't know it needed to be fixed.
Also a plastic surgeon.
But then we have Miss April over here. April, put your hand up so everybody sees us. See you. April is a rock star if you love her chamber as well. She does so much. She does that PowerPoint. You see the ads that we put out for the Gulfport Chamber, like the AI ads and stuff like that. April does that. She has done buses. She designs better than anybody I know. She's amazing. So she's here too, and she's a member of the Gulfport Chamber, and she's a great part of our Dream Team that would be happy to help anyone with you. So let her know, or let me know, or let Jim know, and let's grow you to be even better and look more professional. We have other people that do websites and just different things, press release and stuff. We have a bunch of different people. I think we have Trish Leonard. She's part of the Dream Team. Trish, where are you? Raising it. So she's there. She has a marketing company as well. And she's going to do things at discount for the Gulfport Chamber members. So we are excited that we have people that step up. So when somebody gives me an application, I know we can make sure they have the tools so they can look at this. And that's really important to us. We have some other things we do at the Gulfport Chamber. You can put press releases up on our website absolutely free. How many people do press releases? Everybody should do press releases. It's really easy, but it's absolutely free. How many people do blogs? Blogs are really important. Blogs are, and I always say this to the members here, sort of like going on a date. When you go on a date, you want to have a really nice time with somebody. You want to show you that stuff, or you want to show a little bit about your passion, who you are and what you like, right? That's what blog's about. Your passion for your business. So anytime you want to put a blog out, just start writing about your business. Let people see the passion. Let them see the color of your words, not just black and white. Let them see who you are and what you do. And every month, I don't even care if it's twice or 3 times a month, add to it. Right? How many people do events? Kelly, you do events. You do events. You can do events out there absolutely free. And if you're looking to hire people, you can put that up for free. The reason this is important is because when somebody's going to hire you, the first thing they're going to do is Google you, right? So if they see all your stuff and it looks good, that's nice. But if they see you're endorsed by another organization, it's gonna make you up a little higher for them. When I hire people, I always look at their business, but I wanna see if somebody else is endorsing them and somebody else has them up on their website, then I know they're good, because somebody's going on your way. So use these tools, because we wanna make sure you hire them so you can get better. And that's why we have meetings like this as well. So we're very excited about this. We have, for our nonprofits, you're gonna love this. So we decided, there used to be a meeting in Naples, it was called Out of the Box. A very good friend of mine, Sue Huff, started it for 10 years. And she invited all the nonprofits, and she had a couple of speakers get up and they spoke about different things, how to run your nonprofit. So Sue gave it to the Above Board Chamber a couple of years ago, but we've been busy the last couple of years. So what we did is we're starting to put it together. So this August, we should have a date out next week or so. We are going to invite our nonprofits, and it's going to be at the Hilton in Naples, and it's going to be a breakfast and lunch, and the cost is only $25. And we're going to bring great people there, like Dawn, who's Dawn over there in the laboratory. She's going to talk about collaboration and how to work together and how to use each other's gifts and tools and make things even better. And nobody's better at it than her. So we're going to have different people come and make this like a good day that our nonprofits can learn. Members want to know if they can come, they can come. We're also looking for sponsors for this. So the members are going to pay a regular price, like this price today. We're giving the nonprofits a break because it's our nonprofits. And it's for them, but you can come to learn. So we're very excited about that. So look forward. So we can help them and give them the tools they need to be even better. So we're very, very excited about that. Another thing that we have that's part of the local chamber is the Southwest Florida Christian Chamber. For people that know, I ran a Christian chamber many years ago, and I left 14 years ago, and I started the local chamber. Did you ever have like God knock on your door and say you're gonna do something again, and you're like, no, and it was really funny. It just kept coming into my head in July, and then my girlfriends kept saying, people kept coming up to them and asking them about Christian chamber, which no longer existed anymore when I left a couple years ago. Mary over there, you were one of the people that came up to me at a nonprofit event, and she said, Christian chamber. And I said to a bunch of people, I think we're supposed to do that again. So we started the Southwest Florida Christian Chamber. You may ask yourself, is that something you better join? No. If you're a member of the Above Board Chamber, it's a vote. You get one, you get the other, pay for one, you get the other one for free. Why is the Christian chamber different now? I tell people this story. When I was growing up, if I went to a meeting and stuff, you'd have like a priest, a pastor, or a rabbi, or somebody saying the prayer. And they would get up and do it. They said the prayer, they sat down, everybody forgot the prayer, and everybody forgot the person who said the prayer. Correct? Right? We all forgot about that. And it used to intrigue me. It's funny how God puts stuff in your head when you're younger, and then he's going to use it one day. So we started it in September, and I brought in the top pastor from the senior pastor from First Assembly on Summerlin. And he was amazing. He got up and did a prayer, and you know what he did? He told us about his passion. He told us what his church does. His church does. You can like live over there in your house, and over here could be a church, and you need a program, and you don't even know it's in this church. So part of the Southwest Florida Christian Chamber is to knock down the walls and the doors and bring these pastors out and find out what's in them, so the people in the community can get help. You know, so we are doing that. We're also bringing people in that maybe had faith and lost it and want to tell their story. Or people that just had an amazing thing happen to them. Nice sneakers. Amazing thing that happened to them, and they want to share their story, their faith story. Because when people come in that door from the Above Board Chamber every month, everybody comes with stuff. So we want to make sure that when they leave the Christian chamber, they're going to learn about all the different churches, as many as we have out there. So if you have a church and a senior pastor, let's get me contact with them, and let's get them in here. We have a breakfast. It's a totally different meeting than them. And let's find out what they do so we can grow the churches out there, because that's really important to do. So we want to do that, and we want to do it with the community, and we think that's really, really important. Last thing is, one of the things that we do with the panels each month, about a year and a half ago, it started bothering me when people left the meeting and they would say, this meeting was really good. And I'd say, thank you. But I wondered if they went to the car, did they say to themselves, I should have asked. They still had questions, and we didn't do our job because they can get all the questions answered. So what we did, we started something called mini workshops. So usually at the mini workshops, we have all the panelists can stay. But today we can have two. We have Kaylee and we have Heidi. And they're gonna stay here after the meeting and answer questions for you. This way, when you get into the car and you turn the radio on, you say, I got all my questions answered. We want you to learn. Heidi helped with a whole lot with that. She's been working hard on this. And I said to her, Monday when we did this program last Monday in Naples, they use a lot of acronyms. They don't use the language to people, you know what I'm talking about? You ever talk to tech people? It's like, what did you say? And they go and then they go to the next acronym. I had no idea. Sometimes we just didn't get it. So we are blessed with Heidi. So Heidi gave us a sheet with all the stuff. But Jeannie Sweeney didn't know on the second download is this thing. So on your table, you do not need the paper with all this, because I wasn't paying attention properly. And you can download this, and it's going to help you find up-to-date acronyms for AI. Because we want you to have the tools when you go out that door, so you're going to be the best that you can be. So Heidi, thank you for that. And she's pretty darn amazing, that's all I have to say. So, okay. I have a whole thing on artificial intelligence, I'm gonna read in a minute, but there's one more thing I want to try to do really fast. So nonprofits, listen up. Nonprofits, listen up. One of the things that I started 3 months ago was it's bothering me that some of our nonprofits are losing their money, okay? It's really bothering me. So I sort of prayed on it, how can we help our nonprofits? And this is what we're going to do. Each month, we're gonna talk to the nonprofits and find out how we can help them. I just gotta ask you so all to remember this. I'm gonna go to each one of you, and I'm gonna ask you your name, maybe your nonprofit, and one thing you need. Please do not do a commercial, because we really came to listen to them, but I want to make sure you have a voice as well, okay? So I want you to stand up and say, my name is Jeannie Sweeney. I run the Above Board Chamber. What I need is hugs. But we're going to do this, and we're going to figure out a way to help our nonprofits, because we need, as a community, to keep them visible. And that's really important to me, because some of them become invisible. And we're going to lose things if you didn't even know that we're out there and making a difference. Or you might be using things that they're doing right now, and they're gone. And we can't have that happen. So as a community, we need to help our nonprofits. We're gonna do this really fast. I'm just asking you to do fast, because last week in April, we need to do our part that we can help our nonprofits, right? We can do these things. So I'm very, very excited about it. So let's start. I'm gonna bring out Murray Kaufman. Murray's our sponsor for today. So Murray, I want to thank you for being a sponsor. You want to tell us a little bit about your company?
Sure, absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Kaufman. I'm with the Fort Myers Tip-Off. We are a collegiate basketball tournament the week of Thanksgiving at FSW Central Strategy Meeting Room. Exactly. No, I'm actually going to your softball watch party after this event.
Yeah.
So, if you didn't know, the softball team is in it's the national championship. They're
Fourth national championship.
So go Bucks.
Yeah.
And so we want to work with you. We want to introduce you to what we're doing with the tournament and collaborating with FSW Athletics along with City of Palms Classic Basketball. If you'd like to learn more, I would love to invite you to our courtside connection luncheons. So speaking of active wants, that is my active want. And other than that, I want to be a connector and networker for you as well. I just was passing notes with Becky. So if you think that I can help you, don't hesitate to reach out. I look forward to continuing to work with you. I'm excited to be here with Fort Myers Tip-Off and continue to be a part of the chamber.
I love it. Thank you for being one of our sponsors today. So now what we do, so in most organizations that you go to visit, people read bios. So for people here for the first time, I don't read bios because nobody listens, and I tell my panelists the only one that wants to listen to your bio is your mother, and no mothers in the room, right? That are these people's mothers. So, and plus their bios are our information that's out. So you can go to LinkedIn, find out more about them. But I just want to know a little bit about them. Haley, well, we know about your school. Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So I'm the AVP of Marketing and Digital Strategies at Florida Southwestern. I'm also a mom of 3 boys, 16, 5, and 3. So I also am navigating the world of AI for them as well. So
There you
it's
go.
good times.
Thank you. Heidi's gonna help us a lot with the marketing part of AI. How many people need help with that? I think everybody should raise their hand, just for the record. Mr. Leo,
Hello.
how are you? Straight from Brazil. We flew him in this morning. No, not really, but tell us a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit jet lagged, yeah, right? So, yeah, I'm Professor Leandro de Castro. I'm with FGCU. It's been 2 years now. And I am currently serving as the program director of our recently created Artificial Intelligence and Data Science Institute. Yes, I am a converted Christian at the age of 50, very proud of that. Father of 2, Andre 18, Isadora 14. Yeah, okay. And thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And just Ann, for people that came to all the meetings in the last couple of years in AI, and she has always been there for us. So first of all, I just want to thank you for that. And we're going to learn a lot from all of them. And Chris, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay.
I know you live on Marco Island.
I do, and live on Marco Island. Something that I do, a lot of people don't know about this, but something that I do in my spare time, I actually volunteer with the Audubon Society of Southwest Florida. I'm actually an owl watch volunteer. So I go out and check the owl chicks. I just did that last night, so that's pretty cool. Outside of that, I work at Florida Gulf Coast University and I wear 2 hats. First off, I am a management instructor in the Ledford College of Business, so I teach courses in global organizational behavior and ethics, business strategy, and most recently this semester I taught our first AI ethics course. Secondly, I have the privilege of working with Leandro here and some other folks for the Dendritic Institute. I'm actually the chair of community engagement, so we have put on several industry forums, we've had some internal meetups, and we're really trying to help educate and inform the community about AI and data science.
And you're doing a wonderful job, all of you. So now I'm going to bring up Miss Heidi. I tell Heidi she's my girl crush. She spoke last week and she just blew my mind. And the more I learn about her, she's just amazing. She has 6 children coming down her up. And she's our MC today, so she's done both things in the last week and a half. And we are excited to have you here, and I want to thank you once again for making copies for everyone, because we need sort of like cheat sheets, right? So you can go home and look at it and know where you can find the information that you need to understand AI. Yes, it changes every single day, but maybe we can be part of the change and learn more. Want to tell a little bit about you?
Yeah, okay, a little bit. I've been in tech 40 years. I'm going to start being honest about it. So I used to say 25. I'm going to tell you the truth. I've been in tech for almost 40 years. I started out as a developer. I actually have the first decision science degrees, if I'm being honest, from 1988. I have a master's in information systems, mostly from Bloomington. Went to Harvard in 2019, did a couple of years there to focus on business analytics. But most of my career was in sales, in technology, all different areas of technology, usually as a CRO or running a region or new product development. So I usually was the one that took teams out to do revenue generation, and AI is moving so fast and having a good time with it. We moved here to Naples 3 years, or I live in Naples, I'm sorry, 3 years ago. I bought a business, and then my husband announced to me about 6 months ago he was retiring. So meanwhile, I worked at SVDC, and I'm getting my doctorate in education-focused in AI and personalized learning, particularly in workforce. So particularly in post-secondary and workforce education. So that's my very quick background.
Whoa, that's why I have a girl crush. But Heidi has pre-prepared questions. What we do each month is we ask our panelists questions that they would like to ask. Usually do that because a lot of times speakers answer questions, but they don't really get the message out, the correct message. So they already have it, she already has all the questions, and you're sitting there saying, what about mine? well, we're taking care of you too. There's a little piece of paper in front of each one of you. If you have any questions, please write them down, raise your hand, we will collect them, and we'll bring them up to Heidi. Heidi will check it out and see if it goes with the flow, and we'll get them done. When the meeting is over at 1, Heidi and Kaylee will be here to answer more questions. So we want to make sure we can answer as many questions as possible. So Heidi, here's the mic, you're in charge.
All right, so first let me tell you about the 6 children. That's why I don't need the mic. That's how people find out. Because I have a mother of 6. I have 3. I've raised 6. So kids came in. I'm also a guardian ad litem. And have been for a few years. And boy, that's a tough job. Well, it's just tough overall. So good, I'm glad. And I've used that closet many times. Many times. All right, so we're going to today try to get as much in your head about how you can walk out of here and use AI more effectively. One poor woman had to sit next to me at the table, and she already got a lecture on how to do it for competitive analysis. So I hope that's what you walk away with. Again, if you have any questions that you come to your mind, write them down. We'll get them into the flow, or I am more than happy to get your email and send you any kind of answers, as I'm sure the panelists are too. All right? So Kaylee, I'm starting with you today, all right? So I want to know, how are you helping students and employees at FSW use AI as a tool for empowerment rather than replacement? So let's talk about, because one of the first things we always hear, whether you're a business owner or whether you're an employee, is AI replacing? So you know what, I won't go on and on. I'm going to let Kaylee answer this. Go ahead.
Well, let's see. It is. All right. So I'm going to focus really on what my employees and I do. And this is something that our Institute of Innovative and Emerging Technologies at FSW, spearheaded by Anna Haney Withrow, has really instilled in us at the college, is to use it to enhance, not to replace. So I am able to, I'll give you a concrete example. One of my employees used to spend 20 to 30 hours a week curating a newsletter that we sent out to our faculty and staff. He now spends approximately an hour. So we were able to use ChatGPT to say, hey, we're doing this thing. Here are the RSS feeds that we're having to pull from, and here's what we're having to do. Here are the systems that we're using. And it helped me create a Python script, which I had never even heard of before, to pull all of that information that we're now able to just copy, paste, and then double check. Obviously, you always have to go back and say, is this accurate? Did it pull the right things that we were looking for? Did it pull them in the right order? But you know what? It does a really good job. And he now has 29 extra hours a week to explore some of his other passions, including photography, to curate more content, create more content for that newsletter, rather than just having to heads down copy and paste things into an email editor for 30 hours a week.
Awesome. All right, Leandro, you're next. We're going to continue this topic, right? So can you give us your vision? And I love Leandro's vision. I've seen him speak a few times. Can you give us your vision for AI and how it will change the world of work? So both as employee and business owner, and frankly, talk about how it's already changing things.
Yeah, absolutely. One important thing and a big discussion that we see nowadays related with AI is AI going to take my job, right? And we actually did an opening session on this topic last week. Last week, we had our opening ceremony for the very first Dendritic Summer Academy on Artificial Intelligence and Data Science. And I agree with your perspective in the sense that AI tools, at least still, they do not automate jobs, but they automate tasks, right? And a job is much more than simply a collection of tasks. A job is when you put all the tasks together, a lot of your cognitive abilities, your strategy, then you get what you can do, right? So my view is that AI is a sort of human enhancement technology that we can use to be more productive, to be more effective, and to honestly, to spare more time for you to spend with your family and doing other things that you like, right? And just to conclude, one thing, and trying to answer this question, is AI going to take my job? I would say that, well, you might be replaced by someone that uses AI, right? So what I would say is you have to embrace the technology and use it as part of your skills and deliverables.
All right, great. Okay, so how many of you are business owners? Oh, good. Okay, so have all of you heard of the, and this is to carry on from what Leandro was saying. So have all of you heard of the companies that have started with no employees already using AI, right? Yeah. So the idea, and what I tell clients, I work with clients all the time on use of AI for employees. So you've probably heard of agents, right? And certainly you should be using it for financial management, et cetera. One thing that you should think of, if you have a company of 10 or you have a company of 20, you should be using AI to become a company of 100. That's how, as a business owner, that's how you should think of it right now. So I know, it's not, probably as a business owner, you're not as worried about it, will it take my job? It's how do I do a lot more with the staff that I currently have? And if you're not using AI, I don't know any other way to do it. But there's several different ways, and you can't bite it off and start, AI across your entire company. But you can bite it off in components. So agentic AI is usually the first step, right? And then financial management, et cetera. So think of it that way. You should be using AI to turn each of your employees into 2 or 3 FTEs. For the business, that's for the business owners, and that's a little bit more on what Leandro and we're saying. Matter of fact, well, you know what? I can't believe I didn't say this. The most important thing is marketing, right? Is content. AI was first built for content creation, and so and that's really was all how it was originally rolled out, was content creation. So obviously, I'm sure each of you are using that and partnering with marketing companies that are using that to even be more effective in that relationship. All right, it is your turn, Dr. Burrell. All right, so how do you think the AI governance landscape is going to evolve in the next 2 to 3 years? And who should be at the table discussing how these decisions are made and how ethics are developed?
So first off, AI has many advantages, and we're going to be talking about those advantages. But I think it's also equally important to develop a balanced perspective on AI, because there are some issues that you need to be aware of. And my philosophy is the more aware you are, the easier it is to develop risk management strategies. And you can begin to think about these issues. So when we think about governance, there are some known AI ethics issues, and there's actually 2 databases out there that, as companies have identified these issues, they have publicly disclosed what those issues are. So many of the researchers are going out reviewing that and identifying what some of the common issues are. One of them, for example, is the issue of bias. Bias can show up in about 4 different places when we think about working with AI. It's important to know and understand that the AI is built based on a training data set that you have. And it's really critical to make sure that you have a non-biased data set that has been developed. Unfortunately, there have been some companies that did not do their due diligence, did not think critically, and ended up with some biased training data sets. And what happens is, if there is bias present in the data set, essentially you are training that bias, or you're baking that bias into the artificial intelligence. So it's really important to make sure that you know and understand issues around bias, where bias can show up, what are some mitigation measures you can put in place. Secondly, you need to think about the idea of transparency. So if you're using AI, you need to think critically, how are we going to disclose that to our employees and our customers? Okay. That's a very important piece, because if you're using AI and customers discover that you're using it, the research has shown that many times they lose trust in your products and services. So it's really important to think critically, how are we going to disclose it? Third, in terms of governance types of issues, you also need to examine your current governance infrastructure. So when I talk about governance infrastructure, you need to think about, number one, do you have a code of ethics or a code of conduct? If you do not have those documents, those tools, you need to put those items in place. If you already have them in place, then you need to think about incorporating AI as part of those tools. Secondly, you need to make sure that you have a team of professionals. It could be a few people inside the company. You can also hire outside the company that can help you to investigate potential ethical issues, ethical incidents that arrive. You need to make sure that they know and understand AI and they know how to ask the right questions. So it is important to make sure that you have a team in place that can help you to administer your policies and procedures. Second part of that question is stakeholder involvement. It typically is not the job of just one or two people in the company to manage ethical issues. Instead, you need to include a variety of stakeholders, both inside the company as well as outside the company. And typically it helps to have some legal representation involved. You should also think about incorporating maybe some of your largest customers to get them involved in helping you to refine and revise your policies and procedures as needed. But the key is, it's important to know ethical governance is a team sport. It's not something that just one or two people can take that responsibility. You need to have a team of stakeholders, people that have a vested interest in how your company is performing. They need to play a role in helping you to develop and refine your policies and procedures.
That's great.
Yeah, it is truly, no question, a team sport on ethics. So she said something I want to point out, and we're going to go right into something you can use today. She said that sometimes if companies think you're using AI, then it actually hits your brand value, right? Or it hits your goodwill. I think that's true. I think it's so prevalent now that it's not the same hit that it used to be, right? And now AI is becoming broader. So you're seeing broader types of advertising. You're seeing things. One of the things I do when I do my trainings on AI, and I do them all over Florida actually, is I start out showing people and say who is AI generated and who is not, and never once has anybody been able to tell who is AI generated and who is not. Here's a couple things to keep in mind on AI when we're talking about bias, is that AI is nothing more than data. That's all it is. It's always been around. It's just we now have enough data to make it work, right? The other thing to remember, and then we're going to do some of that and get into education. The other thing to remember is that AI is always going to give you the average. The average. So we're going into education in just a little bit, but one of my soapboxes is that if a teacher is worried about a student cheating with AI, I am more worried that teacher would give them higher than a C if they're doing nothing but a prompt, right? So it will only give you average answers, and you have to remember that when she's talking about bias, what she's saying is they're worried about how much is built in. And when I put the picture up of everybody, everyone picks out one particular one immediately that they think is AI generated. And it's interesting, the person has a very pale face and very, very dark hair, and so they assume that's AI generated, but the first thing you should assume is it's not AI generated, because that's not an average person. So, and it's not AI generated, and usually in AI you're going to get averages or description. All right, let's talk something totally different. All right, this might help everyone out here, and you kind of got stuck on my whole competitive analysis earlier. Let's talk about sentiment monitoring. So how many of you do that for your businesses today? Any type of competitive check, I know you will now, because you guys like listening to me. Any type of competitive check or sentiment monitoring, what is the digital world saying about you? Does what you think is your differentiator, is that what digitally is your differentiator? Are any of you doing that now? Okay, well, let's talk about it, because it's a big deal. And it's the easiest way to make a difference in any business or nonprofit with AI. Right? So it is sentiment analysis. And I don't know if you noticed, I want to give Kaylee all credit. This is a fantastic sheet. The one that I ran with the QR code is a ChatGPT link. You'll see it. I did it with deep research. But it's a fantastic sheet of ways to really get started, particularly in marketing and content creation. And one of the things she has on here is review and sentiment monitoring. So you want to talk a minute about sentiment monitoring and how you do this and how they could do it within businesses and nonprofits.
Sure. So obviously, it all comes down to the systems that you have, but there are some free ways that if you don't have a system like Sprout Social or something like that actually has sentiment analysis and brand analysis built into it, where it's already looking for all of that sentiment, ChatGPT and some of your others can be a backup for that. So you can take the reviews that you see on Google, you can take the reviews you see on Yelp or what have you for your business, and you can plug those into a ChatGPT or a Gemini, and you can say, hey, what is the overall sentiment of the comments that we've been receiving about our business? What could we improve based on these? What are some biases that you see coming from our end, coming from the user's end? And you can use that to make actionable changes, to preemptively answer questions that you're seeing a lot of issues on your reviews for. So if somebody's continuously complaining about one thing or another, you can use that to address that in either your processes or in an FAQ on your website. So you have a way to be a little bit, it's a little reactive, but a little more proactive than waiting for somebody to come and actually complain to you. You can take all of this and analyze it for, is this really neutral? Is this positive or is this negative? And it can give you that sentiment analysis.
Yeah, so this will be an interesting bias question to go with that, and then Leandra, I'm right back to you for the rest of this. So when you're doing the sentiment analysis and you're looking at this, and I tell people all the time, every week you should be doing a competitive check. So because remember now, the first place, I don't know how many of you are B2B versus B2C or regional, but a buyer going to go straight to ChatGPT. It's not going to be a search in Chrome anymore, and a buyer's going to put in, I need an innovative product in X. I need the least expensive product in X. I need the most feature-rich product in X. So what you want to know is, what will ChatGPT put back? And I'm just using Chat as an example. I've used Gemini probably more than I do Chat, and we'll talk, and we've been to that, and I've got it. What I sent you is like Grok, and you can see all the different LLMs. So anybody's going to use different LLMs. So one of the things that you will see is you should be always checking on those to say, well, as a buyer, just go in there as if you were a buyer and say, I need to make a choice in landscaping services. I need to make, and whatever your buyer profile is, say that, and then see what comes back to you. You should check it all the time. All right. So Christina, so this is sentiment analysis. So there's a lot of bias and a lot of danger in this. And let's talk about a component of this, because for all of you that have companies that have Copilot or Gemini, right, your Microsoft shop or your Google shop, you know that as an owner or an administrator, you can at any point go into Copilot and say, what is going on in my company? How are things going? Are there any problems? And it will give it back to you through Copilot or through Gemini. And it's going to look at Teams, it's going to look at the collaboration, it's going to go look at emails that have gone out, it's going to go look at actual Teams calls that happened, and it's going to let you know what's going on. So let's talk about the ethics. Yeah, exactly. This is the tough one, sorry. Throwing this one at you. So let's talk about the ethics of this, that now you can use AI to look inward and look outward and measure things that we've never measured before, like sentiment.
So
I'll give you this one.
So when we think about sentiment analysis is a snapshot in time. It is not necessarily the long-range indicator of emotions. And I'm going to put that out there to keep that in mind when you are performing sentiment analysis. That is one moment in time, and oftentimes it is connected to an interaction that you've had with the customer. Perhaps you have a negative interaction with the customer, and the customer goes straight to Google and they write a review. That is very frequent in business. So it's important to keep in mind that customer is experiencing some maybe frustration, some anger. They're looking for a way to resolve the issue. And in today's environment, it's not at all uncommon for them to go out and voice that dissatisfaction on Google as part of a Google review, a Facebook review. So it's important to keep in mind though, that is one snapshot in time. That may not actually be the true emotion of that customer, but that's how they're feeling at that point. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you are going out pulling your Google reviews and pulling your Facebook reviews, keep in mind that there may be some bias because someone over the long term might actually have a really good experience with your business, but they have one incident that pops up and they go out and they record a review. So as you are monitoring those reviews, please keep that in mind. In terms of long-term bias, bias can definitely show up in your reviews. It can show up in the language that people use. It can show up in the frequency. And if you think about it, a lot of times people will have innate biases. No matter how hard that we try, we still can have some innate biases. And many times our behaviors are linked with those innate biases. So it's important to keep that in mind as you are reading through those reviews. It can actually be very beneficial to have someone else that is objective review those reviews and give you an objective perspective on that. Maybe you have a spouse, maybe you have a friend that is very objective, that is distant from the situation. A lot of times it's a good idea to have that individual review the reviews and help to summarize that information. AI can definitely help you with that. It can be a very nice objective tool, but you need to keep in mind, many of these AIs do have some bias that is baked in. As I had started to talk about previously, bias can show up in 4 different places. Number one, it can show up in the training data set that is used, and I mentioned this previously, to train the AI. Secondly, it can show up in the actual design of the AI itself. So if we are using some of the large AI programs, for example, Google, or let's say that we're using Facebook, it's a little difficult for us to control the situation, but it's actually a best practice to have a diverse group of people that are designing the technology itself. The idea being the design of the technology in many respects is representative of the people that actually build the software. So if you have a diverse group of individuals that are involved in designing the software, you are more likely to have a diverse software design. Now, the third area is the actual interpretation of the output. So when the AI generates a response to your prompt, we have to evaluate that output, and we have to evaluate it for potential bias, all right? The final component can also show up in the way that we word the prompt. So we have to make sure that we are very articulate, that we are clear, that we are not using slang, that we are clearly communicating in the prompt, because the AI is very dependent on the quality of the prompt. So those are the 4 areas where bias can show up.
Yeah, all right, so I'll tell you, that's a very good example, thank you. So I'll tell you a very quick story. I told you we owned a business, right? So my husband said, well, I'm leaving today and I'm going to get rid of this person. I said, well, hold on. Let me write a recommendation letter using AI, it's for what they're good at, to give to them when you get them, just makes things better. So I wrote the recommendation letter and he took it, or I sent it to him, he was at work, and he called me and said, if I believed this, I wouldn't be firing him. I said, okay, I got it. So, and I said, wow, I said, you know what, hold on. I was like, these things, I have seen that person do well, and you said something, so that's why I put it in there. And I said, so what is your problem? He said, he's listed it out, this, and this, these 4 things. And, 2 of them were just crucial, right? And I said, okay, hold on a second. Be right back. So I went to AI and I wrote out, I said, give me an employer review of someone who does these things right and these things wrong. And I said, here's the company. Obviously, I've used AI a lot for the company, right? So just like you do for yours. And I said, so make sure that you put in what are the downstream effects of the things you do right and the things they do wrong. So then I sent it to him and I said, okay, before you do anything else, look at this. And he said, oh, yeah, this is a good review. I said, give him a review. Don't fire him yet, right? Go through this document and talk it through. And I don't know about you, but it's very hard to find people and to get them trained and to get them onboarded. And it's a very expensive proposition, right? So he sat down with the person, and it was interesting because right away she said, well, I know I do those 2 wrong. I know. I didn't think it mattered. But one of them, and it's a heavy inventory, heavy, cash flow business, right? And one of them was a lot of inventory errors. He said, well, I didn't know that was important. Well, in 1 month, that had cost over $10,000 of doing it wrong because it wasn't billed right? So she didn't understand. She's like, but I'm nice over here. I'm doing this, but didn't understand the downstreams of the business. So when we're talking about these things, like we're talking about sentiment analysis and what you do internally and the bias and the risk, one thing that I always want to push on businesses if you can, and I always tell people to do this, is use AI and make sure every employee is getting an employee review at least every quarter using AI. It is crazy how much easier those conversations are if you use AI and how much more effective. By the way, the end result of that story is in 1 month time, she got $1 an hour raise. So it actually works. So you use AI. On the other side, if you are an employee and you are not using AI to write your reviews and hand them over, then you are losing a huge opportunity, right? To have that conversation, because AI has made it so easy, frankly, for employers and employees to be on the same path for what the priority is, because 90% of our problems are communication problems, right? So when we're hearing about bias and sentiment analysis, it makes such a difference to do that. All right, I want you, Kaylee, to explain technomancy. What is it? Why do you use that term? I love it. Go ahead.
Sure. So I always refer to my use of AI as technomancy because it is some version of magic, because I just can't understand exactly what it's doing, but it sure does get to the point that I'm looking for. So as I mentioned earlier, we built a Python script off of all of these RSS feeds. So that was something that, again, I'd never heard of a Python script. It was magic. So it's technomancy. And my team has been able to use it to that effect several times, to be able to say, here are the systems that we have. So for example, for our CRM, we have a CRM called Elucian Recruit. And it's built on Microsoft 365 Dynamics. There's 1,000 and million things that you can do with this CRM, and there's no possible way that I can know every solution and every fancy way that I can use this CRM to potentially solve a problem. So, I'll be sitting there and I'm chewing on something and I go, you know what? I'm just going to ask, here are the systems that we have. go tell me which one might be able to solve this problem in the least amount of steps, with the least amount of work for my team, for my coworkers in IT. How can we get to a point where we can actually solve this problem effectively and quickly? And it has been able, I mean, I was literally just using it this morning before I came here to say, hey, we're having a problem where students are able to do this and they shouldn't be able to do that. Here's the system that we have. And it said, oh, sure, here are 5 different places where you might be able to address that. And I said, oh, I see this field here. And it goes, you're absolutely right. That field could definitely solve this problem. And here's how. So I didn't have to go scour a user manual for something I didn't know. I was able to ask in my own language and give it a real life example of here's what just happened. Tell me how the systems that I have can solve that. And that's something I encourage my employees, you know, when they do that, like knee jerk, well, let me just ask Kaylee. Like, let me just ask. We'll just find out. She'll be able to answer the question. I'll be like, well, have you tried asking Gemini or ChatGPT and just telling them what you're working in? And they're like, yep, hold on, let me go back and do that. And so they're learning how to solve problems with ChatGPT as a partner. And then they come back to me and say, okay, so I'm asking it these questions. I'm not really getting to where I need to be. And I can sit with them and coach them on ways that they can prompt better to get the answer that they're looking for. So it's a really good training tool for my team. But we've also been able to make several different large scale changes for our entire campus based on the fact that the system knows all these user manuals. I don't have to go ingest them. I can just ask it a simple question and it can answer it for me.
Yeah, that's good. Very good. All right, Leandra, you've been the man in the middle long enough. It's time for us to hear a lot from you. So, first of all, tell us how the younger generation can take advantage and make money off of AI, and then talk about overall education with AI. What do you see? Who's learning when they're doing the homework, right? So first, what can our younger generation do to make money using AI? And then let's talk about who's learning.
Okay, well, in terms of how to make money using AI, we can think about it in many different ways. For example, I read a book, I published it around 15 years ago. And one of the things that I decided to do with these new tools was the following. I took each chapter of my book, I generated a podcast out of it, then I paid a guy to create one of these whiteboard animations, and I'm about to publish it in my channel, right? So, but I see my children, I've got a daughter, she's 14, and yesterday she was at the kitchen, playing with her phone as she's usually doing. And I asked her, what are you doing? She said, well, I'm contacting some brands because I want them to sponsorship my channel. And I asked her, well, can you tell me more? She said, well, my last video hit 1.5 million views. And now I'm asking them, they can send me some things to try and I can do some some advertisement for them, right? And there are many ways in which you can add AI to this type of activity, from the generation of content to the presentation of the content itself, right? So, for example, yesterday we had a workshop in our summer academy at the university. And during this workshop, we covered seven different ways of using AI to improve your productivity, right? So, for example, we covered ways of generating a podcast, of generating summaries, of creating tasks, of having your personal instructor that you can talk to it and it can help you do anything within the computer. And it can even, you can even show it a number of ingredients and ask them, what can I do with it, right? Is there any recipe that I can, cook with it? And there is no real differentiation between the use that adults can do and the use that children can do. But I saw something very funny but dangerous at the same time in my kids' school a couple of months ago, which was the following. One of the students was paying another to do the homework for him or for her, right? And the one that was being paid was using AI to do the homework. right? So, well,
Entrepreneurial.
yeah, very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
So, and sorry, and what's the other question?
Yeah, it was about learning. So if AI did the homework, who's learning?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, as a teacher myself, I think it's unavoidable that the students are going to use AI, and we are also using AI. But for me, the question is not using it, but the way that you use it, right? So, for example, what I usually do with my students is I first I do an agreement with them that they are only going to use AI after I allow them to do so. And they have to do it in the way I propose for the course, right? So what I do is I first teach them to do what they have to do in the sense that I want to ensure that they are going to learn the content first, and then they can use AI to automate, improve performance, and be more productive. But if they start with AI, they will very much probably not learn the content because it's so comfortable, right? You just type something, AI does everything for you, you take it for granted, and you move it forward. And it makes our lives more difficult as well because we cannot simply say that, okay, this was made by AI. We have to be able to prove if you want to follow that route. Right. So that's a very complex situation that we are dealing with at the moment. And there's a lot of discussion about policies, regulations, and things like that. But, you know, even this discussion about bias that we are having here now, I would like to provoke us in the sense that each and all of us are biased. All of us are biased. We are biased by our education, by our environment, by our family, by everything, right? So, for me, the real problem is not unless in those cases that Christian mentioned that, you know, an engineer just biased the system on purpose, but the system is always going to be biased because the world is biased in so many different ways, right? Just to give you an example, yesterday I used an AI to create a whole presentation for me, a set of slides. And in this presentation, I had 10 pictures of people studying, working, playing with computers. Out of these 10 pictures, all 10 had only had only images of women. Two of them had one man, one had a part of the head of a man. All of them had women, right? And then if you ask me, well, is it biased? Definitely. Was it under purpose? I don't know. Right? So it may just be the set of data that was used to train the model, right? And one last thing that I would like to comment in this direction is there is a huge challenge when we think about these more general models, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, all the big ones. Well, they are trained with virtually all the information that we have available online, but we never apply them with a global perspective. Right, so let's say that we want to use one of these models to analyze a region in the Amazon forest. And you ask something related with buildings, right? So it was trained with everything, with data from the Amazon forest and with data from New York, from São Paulo, from Taipei, which are massive cities, right? So one way of trying to deal with this issue is really prompt engineering in the sense that you have to guide your model to focus on that specific case so that you have more accurate answers, right? So, yeah, but if AI is doing the homework, AI is the author of the homework.
Okay, so I have a couple of things, and these are all my biases. So first of all, for your children, if any of you are trying to make this decision, or employees, it has already been shown in research, not in the US, because there's so few US use cases, so much in Saudi Arabia and China, but it's already been shown that if they read the material and use AI, there's a 40% higher retention rate. If they just use AI, it's a 30% lower retention rate of the information. So AI is actually a tool for better retention for you, for employees, or students for your children. So that's actually the difference. And I see the difference myself. The other thing I want to add to that Leandra was talking about is prompting. And I heard this last night and I thought it was perfect. It was in a course with a professor talking about AI. And he said his brother has been an AI developer for the last, since 2018 in Saudi Arabia. And he put it perfectly. He said, talk to AI as if it was dumb. So when you are prompting, put in enough information, don't make big assumptions, even though we say it is like you and I chatting. You do not need to do that, tell it who it is, right? But you need to be very specific on what outcome you're looking for and why. Like you're looking for what KPI, and this is what I need this to do. Like for instance, I just got through working with a protein in the area. And we were designing, so a realtor, a high-end realtor firm, so, for properties on the Gulf, right? They want to do a program with that professional team. And so the first thing when I was designing it, because right now we can use marketing and AI, right? So there's firms for $10 a month or $15 a month that can go develop your social media. You can put TV ads out for about $500 to $3,000 a month targeted specifically now at your, and this I'll tell you how many pickleball. So, that's perfect for TV targeting. And we're working with this really, and not local, it'll be at a tournament. And one of the first things I did, when I was working with them, I thought about is what would be the ultimate result, because what they are looking for is potential Southwest Florida buyers in other areas. So one place that they were going to be was Houston. And I said, let's not spend money on Houston, because we're not very likely to get people from Houston. This is not the place. But the next tournament was in New Jersey. Yeah, there we go. So, and it just proved that you are likely to get people from New Jersey here, right? So when I was thinking through it, because the tools are easy. They're AI-based tools with marketing agencies, right? And so when I was thinking about that, what's the outcome? What will be the successful outcome of providing an event around the pickleball tournament in New Jersey? And I thought, well, yeah, 2 buyers. Given what AI is, so rather than think of how many eyes see this or your event attendees or whatever, right? What you want is 2 buyers. So I ended up working now I did this with deep research, right? But I ended up working with deep research and said, what I need out of this event is 2 buyers, right? Because that will more than pay for itself on a golf property. I've been using AI to do the advertising in a 3-week stint before a tournament, right? Matter of fact, 1 buyer, to be honest, would have more than paid for it. And so that was my goal. So I designed everything around the focus at 2 buyer, which took with 2 buyers at that price level, which took all the targeting very tight. We were down to zip codes. We were down to very specific households, very specific industries and functional areas. So that's an example of how you now look at it, like Leandra was talking about, when you're prompting, look at it as your result and describe in detail the result that you need, not what you think you're supposed to have, not your Python reporting, right, with KPIs, and that Tableau reporting I've been looking at for years, right? But what is the result you need, and then keep working until you get there. And then one very practical thing about AI, you realize that you may be paying a flat monthly rate, but on the back end, the LLM, which is on her sheet, so that's Gemini or Chat or Grok or whatever. So the LLM is paying usage based. So sometimes you see your answers getting dumber as you're asking, right? When you see your answers getting dumber, it's because you're part of a lot of my career was in telecom. Do any of you know what throttling is? Mm-hmm. Throttling, yeah, right? So throttling is when you're sitting at the Miami Dolphins game and you've been the one heavy using all month and you're trying to upload pictures and it's not letting you, even though people next to you are doing it, because they keep track of how much data you've been using, and you've already used plenty in a congested area, right? So that's exactly what's happening to you when you see your answers getting dumb. They are throttling you. So when you see your answers getting dumber in ChatGPT or more general, let's not say dumber, but more general, right? So that's what's happening. A lot of times, obviously, you flip over and go to Gemini or to somebody else. Never put any company information in any free sites. What you're paying for free is data, so never do that. So you can flip over to another site and see what answers you get. But more importantly, get up the next morning and do it again, you'll reset. Okay, so just so you know that. All right, so I'm gonna,
Oh, we gotta make sure that, how many more minutes you two have?
oh yeah, that's a good question.
One is
This one,
exactly.
their question.
My class starts at 2.
Okay, tell me what you got. What can, you gotta leave right this second? You got 5 minutes. Tell me what you got.
it's one.
I think 10 minutes, right?
10
Yeah, I
minutes?
think
10
10 should
minutes?
be
All
okay.
right, so this question is for both of you, and how about both of you answer this? Because the next one's about sales, so sales and marketing, I think that's more marketing. In the past few years, we have heard blockchain, crypto, virtual world, and now AI. Will its sorry, I can't make that. Oh, will it make created data less relevant, and will we become less original and not genuine?
Good question.
Start.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. First off, AI is here and it is here to stay. And I want to emphasize that. A year ago, I served as the Provost Faculty Fellow for AI at FGCU. And it was very interesting to watch because we led a lot of the training initiatives for faculty. And there were some early adopters that stepped forward and said, give me everything that you know about AI. I want to use it tomorrow in the classroom. They adopted an experimentation mindset. Meanwhile, there were a few other faculty that said, this is a trend. This is going to go away. Oh no, it's here. It's here to stay. It's going to be here for a while. I think we are going to see some changes. If you think about since ChatGPT was introduced on November 30th of 2022, do you know where you were when ChatGPT came out? I know where I was. I remember the time. And actually the next day I started experimenting with it. And within that first week, I had implemented it inside the classroom. And I remember telling students, this is going to be a game changer. You need to know and understand the technology. But bigger than that, you need to develop the mindset like this technology is going to evolve. And you need to be prepared to learn. So I said, the technology that I trained you on today is going to look very different in a year, 3 years, 5 years from now. What you need to develop is the ability to learn and the mindset, being able to learn. I want to teach you how to fish. I don't want to give you the fish. I'm going to teach you how to fish. And that is the mindset that I've had. So that said, if you think about how AI has evolved just in that very short time for ChatGPT and other generative AIs that have come out, obviously AI has been around since the late 1940s, and a lot of people didn't pay attention to it. And a lot of people, when they think about generative AI, they tend to think, oh, that's the AI. That is not the only AI out there. It is one subcategory of artificial intelligence. I think there are certain industries that will be faster to adopt than others. Healthcare, for example, we are seeing a huge level of adoption within healthcare. I think the airline industry has also been under a lot of pressure to reduce costs and at the same time maintain a safety culture. Those are two areas that AI can be very instrumental in. So I think the industries that are experiencing a lot of cost pressure and at the same time are also heavily regulated, I think we are going to continue to see more evolution in AI in those areas. But I believe it's here. We all need to learn how to learn. Maybe we need to rethink how we learn. But the key is we need to be prepared to adapt to an AI-infused, AI-informed world. Just my 2 cents.
Well, so let me try and complement a little bit what Christian brought to us. In relation to creativity, well, these generative models, they are made to create things, but certainly the way that they create things, and things has a very broad meaning, right? It can be text, it can be images, it can be videos, it can be sounds. But it works in a different way when compared to us, right? So, for example, I can simply prompt myself. The machine cannot prompt itself, at least yet, right? I can start thinking about anything here and it just pops up into my mind and I can create a story around it. I can make many things about it. But I must admit that the fact that now the machine can create things, it sometimes makes me feel a little bit, how can a little bit discouraged, right? So I'll be specific. I mean, I'm a book writer, right? So my last book may be released in a few months, and this is my fifth book. And when I was in the middle of writing this book, because usually it takes me years to write a book, then GPT came out, right? And from there to now, it advanced so quickly that I feel discouraged to write a book because everybody writes books now, right? You just prompt the machine and you pop up with a book. And worse than that, people start questioning, okay, so what part of it you wrote yourself and what part of it you use the machine, right? So that's something that we'll have to learn to deal with. Things are changing very quickly in this respect. Right, I haven't figured that out internally yet. You know, I still have my crisis here of how to deal with it. Yeah, indeed. I mean, this book took me 3 years, the other one 4 years, and so on and so forth. So that's a lot of effort that it takes to write a book, right? And one other thing that I want to comment, when we compare, for example, the question mentioned blockchain, quantum, other types of technologies. And one important feature of AI nowadays is that you can use it by talking to the machine, right? So it's a very natural way of communicating with the machine, because until then, you could do a search, but a search is very different than asking something to the machine. Right. So this made the interaction with the machine very friendly, and that's one of the main reasons why these models are so popular. And another reason is because they are general purpose, so you can use them. You can use them for virtually anything in any different context. So even the kids can use them, right? As we were discussing here earlier. Just to conclude, I agree again with Christiane when she talks about learning. And the expression lifelong learning has never been so relevant as now, right? So we don't have the time anymore to simply say, well, I finished my degree, now forget about studying, I'll only do my job. You have to learn every day because things change very quickly. And we have to adapt ourselves if we want to be not only competitive, but relevant to the market, right? But there are other things. There is hope when we think about some unique human skills like empathy, the very own way that we communicate. So any of these skills that are more related with the human touch, they became even more important now. Okay. So
All right, so real quick, we want to do a picture, and then Kaylee and I will be here to answer questions. And then we do have a sales and marketing question right here that I'll answer for everybody.
Okay, and Kaylee,
The two of them are here for a little while, if you want to stay, but we always do group pictures, so we're gonna do that, so say hello to each other, we'll be right back.
Allow
Photo,
your customer
PHOTO.
service agents more time to be high touch with the people who need to be high touch. So how can
Photo,
you
Jim,
use
JIM.
a chatbot, for example, to
Photo.
answer simple questions for
Jim,
somebody who
Jim,
doesn't
Jim,
necessarily
Jim,
want to
sorry,
talk to
sorry.
somebody on the phone or want to use a live agent? how can you answer those questions for those people so that your customer service agents can take their time doing the cultivation of the relationship with the people for whom that matters most. So
And then the rest of the
let's
stuff, the
answer
photos
those
will be
simple
on.
questions. Let's get the easy stuff out of the way using our high-tech options. And then let's focus on that relationship building rather than how many people can I get in and out of this queue answering these questions. And I think that's where you kind of have to look at that line is separating it in that way.
Photo.
Oh, is anybody doing agentic AI yet? You got agents answering, do you have chatbot? Chatbots are not agentic. Okay, the one thing to remember when you're looking at so first of all, on your website, you should definitely have agentic AI on your FAQs, right? AI should already run your FAQs. Whatever platform you're on, you can plug in Dialogflow, which is Google. Microsoft just came out with theirs, can't remember what it's called Microsoft ISI. So I can't, but you can just put, it's not too hard to constantly put agentic AI. Whoever is doing your website, they should be able to. I know, I had another client though, and she went to her website person, and I said, you've got to get agentic AI to answer your FAQs, because it'll be learning and adding to it. And when she went to her person, his first question, her web person, his first question was, well, what am I going to do? What do we do about doing this 24 hours? So I think they weren't using an actual AI or weren't thinking in terms of an AI agent. So just be careful, because it is an AI agent. It should be 24 hours, and it's learning your FAQs. So it's learning what people ask, and it'll add it back into FAQs. It's answering, right? So don't get hung up on if you've had a bad chatbot experience. Put that on there. There's no question about it, because it's going to start giving you what people are asking, and you're going to get that kind of quick feedback. The other thing is remember with agents, and I have not deployed them yet. So really, I've worked with packages that deploy them for specific vertical industries. Like I've worked with community associations, the bar association, and library association, even to answer questions. But when you deploy AI agents, think about this. They each have kind of a process. So you can do a swarm, and they're called a swarm of AI agents. So don't think in terms of one, like break down what do I want them to do in customer service. Like, okay, I want one to have the process, what you've got to do before we get there, right? And they can keep learning and giving better answers to the process. I've got one that calculates the approximate price based on address or whatever. So think in terms of a swarm of AI. So when you're putting it together with whoever you're using, or if you're doing it yourself, think of it in terms of you're building an AI agent for specific processes. Don't think of them like a person. So don't think of it like a customer service person that you put out there to do 20 different things, right? Break those 20 different things down, and it's a good exercise for you to do that, right? If you break those 20 different things down, it's a great exercise, and then think about the agents you want to deploy to do each of those pieces. The user won't notice the difference, right? Now, the one thing from a high-touch standpoint that I see, I am at pitches all the time. The other thing I do with SBDC from the state level, since I have the most tech experience, and I do almost all AI training. Just while we were in here, I got 2 more requests to do AI training. So since I do all this, I also have a very tight relationship with VCs. So if you are in tech, you're with VCs, right? And so one of the things that I see every company, so I go to pitch after pitch. I missed UCFs yesterday. Honestly, I did not want to drive 4 hours to turn around and come back on that one, because I see so many. But when you see pitch after pitch, the one thing you see is what everybody is asking for is money for salespeople. So the crazy thing is, because AI is taking us down to like 6 months for what used to be 24 months to develop, and because it's so easy to implement the systems, what everybody is asking for is go-to-market money. So with the direct salesperson. So what I'm saying, but my point of saying that, to answer this high-tech question, is probably if you're B2B particularly, you better plan for the sales, right? Plan for that direct sales. Now, I got into this whole field because of AI as an algorithmic answer because of sales. I at the time had about 2,000 salespeople, 2,300 writing them. And so I was trying to make it better. Like, it's, when you're at that level, it's just a numbers game, right? What's your funnel size? What's your close rate? What's your close rate on type of customers? And blah, 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 blah. And that's why I got into it. So you should be using it from a sales standpoint to know the most effective, right? You should be using Copilot and Gemini to evaluate your funnel and what verticals are the most effective and, what place you get these from, where you get the leads from, what's the most effective, et cetera. My son does that already. And he's in Chicago in corporate roofing. And so, or commercial roofing. So you should be using the numbers as tight as you can, but I don't see anybody getting away from the direct sales. I mean, I don't even see it in these pitches. And just to give you some scope, when I sit through a pitch, it's usually somewhere between 8 and 30. And everybody's asking for salespeople. So I don't see it going away. Now, I do remind my children they should be choosing the salespeople career because of that. But, and one of them did go into sales. Okay, anything else?
Yes, I wanted to add one other thing. So a lot of CRMs have for years built in different indicators of whether or not someone needs, a lot more push for yield. So what you can do is kind of analyze, how long have you, did you spend cultivating these relationships? You can plug all of that into GPT or, Gemini or what have you and say, okay, what's the type of, what is the demographic of person that would need a more high touch? And you can use that to help inform those scores that are within your CRM system that can inform your salespeople who might need more interaction and who could possibly can you just push the general communications that you already have planned to? Is this person already on the cusp? Are they a younger person who, is a millennial who doesn't like talking to people? Please let your chatbot sell this to me. I don't want to talk to you about it. So, you can build those and GPT can help you find those trends without you having to look through all of that data. So you can use it, and even if you're not ready to use it to deploy as an agent, you can use it to inform the things that you're already doing to help you kind of step into using AI a little bit more.
That's awesome. Okay, I think you need to call up. Kaylee and I will be here until at least 1:30 if you have other questions. By the way, I happen to be a Gen X and I don't ever like to talk to anybody but about the same. So they don't ever like it. All right, so thank you all for your time. Kaylee, thank you so much. You did a wonderful job. It was great to have you in your perspective. And I will turn it over to you.
And thank you, Kate. Did I do a great job? Okay, like everybody that's still here, they are both here. If you have any questions, they'll be happy to answer them. Two questions I'm gonna ask. Did everybody meet some people today?
Yeah.
Well, the most important question that I ask is, did you learn stuff?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. So that's what we do here at the Lower Chamber. We make sure everybody's educated and they get the tools they need so they're gonna have to go outside that door to be better, right? So thank you all. If anybody wants more information, let us know.
Thanks to you.
Oh, that's